The night before Joel Embiid would go on to win the MVP award, it was the other MVP the Sixers have on their roster that led the team to a huge Game 1 win in Boston. With the vintage Harden performance, it got me wondering, can two players that won the MVP and the scoring title in the same year beat this Celtics team? With Embiid's return in Game 2, the Celtics blew out the Sixers by 36 to even it up at 1-1. Are we going to see the Celtics team that made a finals run last year spoil the MVP season? Or will the return of Embiid prove too much and power the Sixers to their first Eastern Conference Finals since the last Sixers MVP did it in 2001? We'll be taking this on and more in this episode of Stat Stories. After a somewhat ugly round 1 win against the Hawks and the Heat taking out the top-seeded Bucks, the Celtics seemed ready to make another finals run until they ran into the Sixers MVP in Game 1. With Embiid's return, the Celtics now face two players that have won both the MVP and scoring title in the same season. Since 1981, there have only been 4 instances where a team has 2 of those players on the same team. Harden has now been a part of the last 3. Curry and Durant were the first duo to do it in 2016 since the Lakers with Kareem and Bob McAdoo way back in 1984. In Game 1, Harden looked like he did back in his MVP years, dropping 45 on the Celtics, including 7 of 14 from three-point range, making his MVP teammate very happy. But then in Game 2, Harden starts 0 for 5 and struggles in a blowout loss to the Celtics. My question is, which Harden are we going to see the rest of the series? To figure that out, let's first take a look at the last 2 times Harden was paired up with another player that won the MVP and scoring title in the same year. In Game 1 of the 21 series against the Bucks, Harden left 43 seconds into the game. When he did come back in Game 5, he only ended up scoring 5 points in 45 minutes while I watched KD drop an insane 49-point triple-double on the Bucks. After a Game 6 blowout loss, the series returned to Brooklyn. Harden scored 5 points in the 4th, including this bank, to give him 22 in the game. But with Durant playing out of his mind this series, it was up to him to take over the rest of this game and overtime. And if KD didn't have size 18 feet, the Nets probably go on to win this game, maybe the next series, maybe even the finals.
He shoots, yes! With 1 second remaining!
In overtime, Harden had 2 good looks at 3, but he actually missed them both badly. The Nets in fact scored only 2 points in overtime, and it came within 22 seconds with a Bruce Brown layup. Ultimately, KD had another shot to tie or win at the end of OT, but came up short with an airball. Now, I don't fault Harden at all for this series. If KD's going to go off like that, you give him the ball. What it made clear to me was how difficult it is for Harden to contribute when paired up with another of these ball-dominant MVPs. And it becomes apparent when you go back and look at 2019 when he was paired up with Russ. Harden was engaged in Game 1, scoring 36 points in a 15-point win over the eventual NBA champs, the Lakers. Now here's where it gets tricky. Harden, in fact, played well the rest of the series, averaging nearly 30 a game. But as the series goes on, you can see the transition from Harden being the number 1 player on the team to the number 2. Like Durant, Russ takes over a little bit more of the offense, the facilitating, all of those things, which leaves Harden to kind of sit on the fringe of the offense where he's not as impactful. It's a subtle nuance, but that line between Harden as the number 1 player on a team and the number 2 player makes a huge difference in a team's performance. Going back to Game 1, you can see this in play. Harden's engaged, he's facilitating the offense, he's taking shots, getting in rhythm. Without Embiid on the floor, you can see how engaged he is. And where this really mattered in Game 1 was in the 4th quarter. Harden either scored or assisted on 20 of the Sixers' final 30 points. Here, Harden takes Jaylen Brown to the hole for a strong finish. When Harden's the number 1 guy, he will be aggressive and he'll take step-back threes like this. And if he's been like that the entire game, he'll make them. He's been in rhythm. Now imagine if Joel Embiid's been on the floor this entire game, especially in this 4th quarter. How does it change how Harden and the Celtics play? If Embiid's in this pick and roll, how hard did the Celtics collapse on Harden? The best example is the biggest play of the game. If Embiid sets this screen, does Horford switch on to Harden still? Either way, does Harden still take this shot knowing that the MVP is down there somewhere? If Harden's playing as a number 2, I don't think he does. But in this situation, he's playing as a number 1 and he cans it.
The Sixers have captured Game 1 without Embiid. Harden spectacular, 45 points.
So why does Philly need Harden to play with that number one mindset to win? During the regular season, the Celtics won 3 out of 4 games. It took a 52-point game from Embiid to win, and they still almost lost. This was one of those games that defines an MVP type season. He was dominant the entire game, but with 2 seconds left, Derek White hits a 3 from deep. It wasn't a foul, so Sixers only have to inbound the ball basically. And the MVP gets called for an offensive foul on Grant Williams. Go figure. The Celtics come down and through some Marcus Smart magic get Jayson Tatum open in the corner for a fadeaway too. Sixers fans must have been holding their breath because if you go back to the game, they only managed to get 1 out of the 4 games. Now while I think this is the key for the Sixers to win this series, I still think that the Celtics' depth might just be too much for the Sixers to handle. In Game 2, the Celtics hit 20 threes, and that includes Tatum going 0 for 3. In fact, they only got 7 points from the 4th place finisher in the MVP voting. With that kind of depth, a defense like Philly has to guard everyone. Often they overcommit to the hot hand, leaving other players open. This is an easy read for Brogdon to get Grant Williams a 3. Tough shot for sure, but when they're already hitting everything, stuff like that tends to go in. With the series heading back to Philly, anything could happen. But I think if the Sixers are going to have a chance in this series, you're going to need to see some big games from James Harden. Who knows? Maybe he'll throw it back to his MVP years. But my prediction, Celtics in 6.